use grey water, then stormwater collection and desalinization. Mr. Olusegun mentioned this. Those who are around Lekki axis, they desalinize. A director in my workplace traveled to Morocco on an official assignment sometimes last year. And there's a place called Marrakesh in Morocco. He went on a field visit and he said they had to transport water from the Mediterranean Sea into Morocco, desalinize it, that's remove the salt, NaCl from it, and they took that water back for farming. And when they farm there, from Morocco, they export fresh fruits into Spain, into France, and I think into Portugal by collecting the water from the Mediterranean Sea. They have the land, so they just collected the water. So this can also is another innovative farming system. Biotechnology, improved and hybrid seed. We have mentioned that. I brought this seed for us. I would like to share it. This is the tomato called gourd tomato. Yorubas call it tomato elejo. It looks like cucumber. I planted this in my house. And by planting, I was able to study the agronomy. And these are the dried seeds. I would like to share. You can try it out. You begin to get your harvest in about 90 to 97 days. So the ones I planted was May ending. And by first week in March, in September rather, we've been harvesting tomato from there. So we've not been buying tomato. And I don't think I'll buy tomato for the rest of this year from my backyard. The first one on the fence, I only staked about 2 times, 2 or 3 locations. I did staking. The others went to meet the wall. And in fact, my neighbor also has some fruits on the other side. That's a blessing to my neighbor across the fence. So the first set of fruits were 36. I had to count. And each time I want to make stew or sauce, we just harvest 3. And that's enough. And 3 to 4 times a week. And I'm sure that for this month and for November, I would not be buying. To make it sustainable, I've planted again, such that by November ending, that one is beginning to die out. I'm expecting another harvest. And almost throughout the dry season, it will do well during dry season because it doesn't like much water. So I'll be able to even sell by then. Or maybe share with some of my neighbors. So I would like us, I only planted 2 seeds. The first 3 I harvested, I counted 205 seeds. So that means from one fruit, about 70 seeds, 68 or 69. So I don't know how many seeds I have stopped counting. So but this can go around each of us to try out. Germination takes about 10 days, depending on the available heat. Depending on the available heat. So we can go try this out. So GMO for me is a no-no, like Mr. Olusegun said. Hybrid seeds if you want, but we can do organic seeds. And we can do, this will be the 2nd generation, you can do it. Just make sure you give it enough heat to germinate. And it's a vine, it crawls. So look for a space around you that you can establish it. Okay, farm automation technologies. These ones are just to share with us the possibility. Farm automation such as autonomous driving tractors, laser scarecrows, in places where you cultivate rice. A big problem to rice are beds. They disturb rice a lot when it gets to the tillering and the flowering stages. So use scarecrows to scare them away. Precision agriculture. This uses technologies like satellite mapping, drones, soil sensors to optimize the use of resources and application of chemicals. Let me quickly divert by responding to a question asked concerning soil density. That soil kit cannot test soil density. However, there's a soil moisture meter, a soil meter. In fact, the Nigerian professor from FUTA, Professor Christopher Akimbele, an agric engineer, invented one recently, this year. And you can check it online, Professor Peter Akimbele, and it's for sale. You can buy that soil meter. That will give you more information. It tells you the pH, tells you the moisture content, tells you the bulk densities. These are factors you consider in soil. I planted the plum tomato in my backyard around March. And the section I planted it was actually waterlogged. The tomato did not do well. It would flower in the morning, and by evening or the following day, the flower would have dropped off. So I had to consult agronomists. You know, there's agriculture, there's irrigation, there's agronomy. We all are experts in different fields. So I contacted an agronomist in my workplace, And he told me, go check out this factor, heat stress, and the likes and the likes. I said, it's not about heat stress. I water. He now asked me, does the water drain well enough? And I had to go think. The water does not drain well enough. And when water does not drain well enough, it becomes cakey. It becomes clayey. That's the problem with southeastern part of Nigeria, where you have a lot of flood in Igbo land. It's because their soil is predominantly clayey. So clay does not allow water to permeate. The permeability is very, very low. So I had to now pulverize the soil. What's the meaning of pulverize? Turn the soil. So by the time I turned the soil, I was able to break up those hardened soil, and I replanted. Though I did not plant tomato again because I have another alternative. I replanted some crops on that soil. So use of soil sensors to optimize the use of resources and the application of chemicals. PA allows growers to focus on a specific area of crop. This is called variable rate technology. For instance, you are in the open field now. When you use PA, precision agriculture, with the sensors, it monitors what nutrient is needed per location of your land. For instance, let's say the plot is this room. PA has gone to do a pre-study and has told you what is needed at that section where the video man is staying, what is needed at the door. And by the time you are applying inputs, maybe your chemicals, your pesticides, or herbicides, it gets to that point and applies the required volume. It gets to the door and applies the required volume. So it's called variable rate technology. Unlike what we do these days, we carry a knapsack sprayer, we apply equal volume across the field. But that technology applies per location, and it saves money, saves energy, and it saves time too. So you can see pictures of drones, you can see pictures of a robot harvesting, I think, is this cabbage or something? So that's the technology. We have two pictures of autonomous tractors. There you see the one on the upper right section and the one on the lower left section. The red tractor there, you can see there is no space for a human being to mount it. You can see the operator with his iPad controlling the tractor. So, and you have robots harvesting. Vertical farming, we've shared what the benefits are. So, greenhouse agriculture, I want to encourage us, as much as we want to do in our houses, there are technologies for doing those. But if you want to go commercial scale, you need to scale it up a little by introducing greenhouses. What's a greenhouse? This is the structure of a greenhouse. We have different types based on technology, based on available resources, based on available cost. The one most commonly used around here is what's called screen houses or net houses. They are made from white nets, like mosquito-treated nets. But actual greenhouses are plastic or glass structures. Those ones are used majorly in the Netherlands or in Israel. But for us here, start with this. With this now, you can go commercial scale. With this, you would have done your nursery, the agronomy, then you transplant to the field. This now represents the field. And from here, like a typical greenhouse of 8 by 24 meters, that's 192 square meters, you can plant 480 stands of tomato, lycopsychon, or your pepper, capsicum. So this can help you to go commercial. This is a greenhouse structure. What's the purpose of a greenhouse? To create a microclimate for planting your crops. The structure and the design, that's the engineering. You use different materials like glass or plastic. The temperature, it helps you to control temperature. When it's too warm, you can roll up the nets. When it's too cold, when it's too warm, you roll up. When it's too cold, you bring it down. So that way, the temperature is controlled. Because crops are like human beings. They are sensitive. They are living. So for you to have maximum yield, these are factors you have to consider. Humidity too. Humidity matters. Light management. Innovation has gone beyond depending on sunlight. That's called photosynthesis. It's good. Thank God we have abundant light in tropical countries, sunlight. But in places that they don't have abundant light, they have developed other means of introducing light, like the Netherlands, which is a case study. The Netherlands is number two in world agriculture. But they have developed LED bulbs in the agriculture, in their greenhouses. In fact, one of my readings about them, they've developed lights to the extent that they are now monitoring the color of light. Light has how many colors? Major colors, 7, the rainbow. They have now developed what lights, now if they count the UV and the infrared, it's more than 7 colors. They have now developed what lights affects the ripening of what crop. Is it color blue light? Is it color red? Is it color yellow? Is it the green, white, or all? They have developed their technology to that extent. But for us, even if we don't have lights to that extent, we can do something. I planted some yam in sacks in my backyard this year when I got soil. And I planted them last week in March. They did not start germinating until about 2 weeks. But I developed a method. I had rodents destroying them from the roots. So I now said, this thing will not germinate in the soil. I took them to my store, put on a yellow light, and allowed it to germinate. So after it had germinated to the extent that I knew rodents would not be able to destroy, I now took it and planted it inside the sack. So that was the technology I developed. And I used my fence, a section of my fence, and I put sticks inside it to stick. And I'm doing fine. And I'm sure by the end of this month, I'll begin to harvest. I did 25 for yam and potatoes in sacks, but my goal is to increase to 100 between now and the end of the year. So that the volume or quantity of yams that I'll be buying in 2025 will what? Reduce. And that's behind my house. I'm not paying for labor. I'm not paying for weeding. So light management, water management, pest and disease control, that's crop diversity, enhanced productivity, sustainable agriculture. The lifespan of an average greenhouse, this structure, is about 12 years. And if you do your agronomy, you do your plus and minus, your cost-benefit analysis, if you set up a greenhouse structure in about 4 to 5 years, you will be solvent. You will break even. In fact, if you do 2 productions in a year, that will reduce the time for you to break even, and the rest will be profit. So this is a greenhouse structure. The systems used in greenhouses, we have mentioned them: hydroponics, aquaponics, soil-based greenhouse, vertical farming. Factors to consider when setting up a greenhouse: your energy source, what will be the source of your energy. There's a client of mine that we're working with now. He wants to put up a structure like this, and it needs a source of water. And we asked him, should we use a borehole or a well? He said he doesn't have money for a borehole, so let's use a well. How will we power the well? Said, let's go for a solar-powered irrigation system. That's one of the things my office is doing now. Most of the boreholes we don't do boreholes that are dependent on NEPA any longer, because some of these things are in remote locations. So solar-powered boreholes, that saves you costs in the long run. So you consider the costs and you consider the sustainability. How will you make it sustainable? Another technology that can help, that's innovative, is what's called plastic mulching. Sorry, I don't have a picture. I thought I did a picture. Plastic mulching is using plastic materials like polythene to cover your soil surface. This reduces what's called evapotranspiration, the loss of moisture from the soil, loss of moisture from the crop itself. Evaporation is loss of moisture, generally, from the surface of things. Transpiration is the loss of moisture from the crop. So the combined is called evapotranspiration. So with plastic mulching, that is reduced. It also creates a greenhouse effect. It warms the soil, because for your soil to do well, you need heat. And it also retains sufficient moisture. Then you have cleaner crops, because they avoid direct contact with the soil, as well as less rotting as a result of mud splashing. Let's talk about irrigation systems. They are just basic ones. The flood or basin, whereby you just apply water to everywhere. That has disadvantages. You lose energy. You lose about 70% of the water. In fact, that easily leads to waterlogging. You have furrow, whereby you apply water in between. You have sprinkler irrigation. What you see here is a sprinkler irrigation system. It's called center pivot irrigation system. We have it in our workplaces. How many of us are familiar with FUNAB, Abel, Federal University of Agriculture? When you are entering into FUNAB, there's a river basin there, Ogun River Basin. As you are entering by their gates, you see this sprinkler system irrigation, center pivot irrigation system. That's what they use. So this, for your field operation, you need something like this. We have it in our workplace. We installed 50 hectares. It works in a cycle, like your pi r square in mathematics. So there is a center pivot, which is like the center of the cycle, and it has rails. And it moves along the circumference. So you see the less green part at the middle is where the sprinkler system does not cover. You see the other ones, they are covered. Now for the places not covered, at the end of the sprinkler, we have what is called end gun. It is shooting. So the end guns are what are now shooting into the less greener places. So this is good for open field cultivation, arable land. You want to cultivate maize or rice. The one we did at our workplace is 50 hectares, 25 hectares for each one. And the technology this used is Internet of Things. What is Internet of Things? 3 components concerned, involved. Man, the system, and the technology. Now the system is the irrigation in the field. Man is the operator. The technology is what you use in communicating. So for this, a colleague of mine was the one monitoring it, a water resource engineer. He just had to prompt an SMS. It was an SMS prompt. And by prompting, it says start irrigation for so hours. And the sprinkler begins to move around. Maybe to take 4 hours to complete a cycle. If you want to do 2 cycles, and by then, you just program it and it goes off. So you don't need to always be in the field. That's the technology for center pivot irrigation system. So if you want to go into open field, it is better to do this. It's highly expensive, but it's something you can look into doing. So circular economy, I've mentioned this earlier, it has a few benefits. One of such is it protects the environment. You are recirculating resources in the environment. You are reusing resources, and that reduces the effect of extraction, primary extraction. In economics, there's what's called primary extraction or production, secondary and tertiary. Primary extraction means for each time you want to produce this container, you have to go and extract the material. You can reuse it. So that's what circular economy encourages. It reduces total annual greenhouse gas emissions, and it reduces the energy and resource consumption by creating more efficient and sustainable products from the design phase. It promotes the reuse and recycling of raw materials, and it creates jobs. There was a time that people were saying reward for waste, RFW. Bring these things, when we count it and it's a particular mass, we will give you a reward. So that's job creation. And such things find relevance globally, especially with sustainable development goals. Reason is because polythene and all these materials, they are non-biodegradable. They will not degrade. Keep them under the soil for 20 years, do not degrade, except you burn. And we are discouraging burning. So the global world will reward you for recycling this type of materials. Case studies, I would have loved us to watch 2 videos, but I'll just share a summary of them. Netherlands and Israel. If there's nothing you will take home, I want you to take the story or the slogan of Netherlands home. Netherlands is the country we call Holland. This is the slogan. God created the world. The Dutch created Netherlands. God created the world. The Dutch created Netherlands. Netherlands is a country that is below sea level. Lagos is on the sea level, 0 meters. That's the height of Lagos, a larger part of Lagos. Though Alimosho is a bit higher. Netherlands is below the sea level, between Belgium and Germany. Now, sea can submerge the entire country. The population of Netherlands is about 17 million, just like Lagos. But Netherlands...
Improve ROI with Google.
Okay. Can you please? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you can go ahead, please.
Go ahead, please. Okay, I should continue. Okay. So, Netherlands is a country below sea level, but they developed innovations and technologies to ensure that the sea does not wash away their country. They developed such technologies by building what we call dikes, physical embankments to ensure that water does not rise, or when water is rising, it does not cross over to take over
country in the world. This probably isn't too surprising. It's the fourth largest country by land area, by some accounts has the most arable land, and it's a developed economy with infrastructure capable of handling a large volume of trade. But the second largest exporter can be a bit of a surprise, at least at first glance. Coming in at number 2 is the Netherlands, a country barely larger than the US state of Maryland. It's estimated that in 2021, this tiny country exported an estimated 104.7 billion euros in agriculture products. The Netherlands produces 4 million cows, 13 million pigs, and 104 million chickens a year. Altogether, they are Europe's biggest meat exporter. When it comes to vegetables, they are the second largest exporter in the world. They are the world's top exporter of potatoes and onions. And it probably doesn't need to be said, but the Netherlands is also the largest exporter in cut flowers. I'm not sure there is an origin of this success, or really this is just the combination of culture and a few key events. Some cite a famine in World War II in the Netherlands as motivating the country's growth in the agriculture sector. During the winter of 1944 to 1945, an estimated 22,000 people died due to the harsh winter conditions and the Germans blocking routes from small farm towns to more densely populated areas. But the Netherlands had experienced another food shortage in World War I. While the effects were not as severe, it was enough to influence